Testing 1, 2, 3. It's me and my girl. Her name is Fee. Okay, that's it. Welcome back to the Convo Couch, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't want to get started in over there. You know what I'm saying? I would tear this thing up. Machine Gun Kelly and Eminem ain't got nothing on this white boy over here.
I don't know about all that, fam.
I know. Well, you don't know because you hadn't heard. One day, though, maybe. I'll break it down for you. Thank you. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Convo Couch. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
So we have a lot of things going on. One thing in particular has been soaking up the news cycle. A lot of people getting really upset. And we got a lot of things to talk about, fam, because elections do have consequences, don't they? And
I guess so.
Today was one of those times when I was like, wow, this is just going to hit us right here in the nose. But the political football has come back, too, as well. And there's something serious.
There's so much to talk about, but let's just start by going over today. Judge Brett Kavanaugh and Cristine Blasey Ford gave their testimonies for this hearing, and with the accusation against Kavanaugh of sexual assault. So Ford appeared very calm, even though she was met with a lot of hostility from the prosecutor specifically. And it was suggested that constantly that she was forced by Democrats to do this, that it was, a backroom deal, so to speak. Kavanaugh's reactions were a little different. He got extremely emotional. He began to sniffle. His body language was extremely uncomfortable. He was drinking so much water. I thought he was going to drink all the water in California. And he began to scream and get angry. And he also started crying at the end. And the whole time I'm just thinking, imagine if Ford had acted like that. You know, how, the Republicans would be like, oh, her testimony isn't not valid. She's crazy. And, and so we have several pictures of that. We have this one meme that says, I don't know why he's so emotional about this. It's just a job interview. I can't take him seriously if he's going to get this emotional. He might try smiling a little bit. Maybe he needs to go to the bathroom to compose himself, to make his face and hair look prettier. I mean, this is just kind of things that I as a woman hear all the time, specifically, like all the time. I know I do, and I know a lot of women do. But this isn't a trial, fam. We have to remind people that this isn't a trial. This is a job application process. If you are to go to a job interview and they're doing a background check, okay, and you've been arrested or you have a criminal record or there's something iffy about, your past, especially if it's a government job, you get asked about that, okay? And so this is something that's normal. It's not something out of the ordinary, but Republicans are kind of making it seem like this is like a witch hunt is the word they use. And specifically, if you're going to be going for the position of a Supreme Court judge, I think the standards are higher. If there's an accusation against you for sexual assault, it's a very serious accusation, and it's not just one, it's 4. And besides that, there were other issues with Kavanaugh prior that we're going to talk about later. So I think even his own friends were actually accusing him of getting belligerent when he was drunk, which a lot of people get belligerent when they're drunk. A lot of people react different ways when they're drunk. But it was interesting seeing him so belligerent sober. It made me wonder what he would be like completely drunk. And so I just want to go ahead and point out that the law should apply to everybody equally. And so we have this other meme, this picture. This is what Cristine was looking at the entire time. She was looking at a row of men judging her while she was talking about these, very serious and traumatic experiences. So what I want to point out, fam, is that whether or not Republicans choose to push him through, this isn't a trial. He can later on be tried in court. So let's say they push him through. Let's say he goes into it and then there's a trial and he's found guilty. It's going to be a whole issue. So I just feel like it would be even better for themselves to not even push him through. Yeah. But it's also interesting to see the public go defend Kavanaugh, some of them on the left and right, so passionately let me remind you, the media portrays young black men of color as not being boys. Okay, so if we saw Emmett Till, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Jordan Edwards, Antoine Rose, we see them being called these predators, these super predators that the Clintons coined back then in the 90s. But someone like Kavanaugh, anytime he's being tried, they point out that, he's not, he was a boy, it's normal for boys to be like that. So I just want to point out that it's not that we are trying to lash out to a person. It's that we need to hold the same standard regardless of race, regardless of economics, because Bill Cosby is another situation where we see the economics and the race at play. He's black. He got 3 to 10 years. If he were white, it might be a different story. If he were poor, he would probably get a huge sentence in comparison to what he got. The law should be the same across the board. So I just want to go and show a video of the testimony of Cristine Blasey Ford.
Brett groped me and tried to take off my clothes. He had a hard time because he was very inebriated and because I was wearing a one-piece bathing suit underneath my clothing. I believed he was going to rape me. I tried to yell for help. When I did, Brett put his hand over my mouth to stop me from yelling. This is what terrified me the most and has had the most lasting impact on my life. It was hard for me to breathe, and I thought that Brett was accidentally going to kill me. I have been accused of acting out of partisan political motives. Those who say that do not know me. I am an independent person, and I am no one's pawn.
With what degree of certainty do you believe Brett Kavanaugh assaulted you?
100%.
What is the strongest memory you have?
Indelible in the hippocampus is the laughter, the uproarious laughter between the two, and they're having fun at my expense.
How are you so sure that it was he?
The same way that I'm sure that I'm talking to you right now. It's just basic memory functions, and also just the level of norepinephrine and epinephrine in the brain that sort of, as you know, encodes, that neurotransmitter encodes memories into the hippocampus, and so the trauma-related experience then is kind of locked there, whereas other details kind of drift.
So what you are telling us is this could not be a case of mistaken identity?
Absolutely not.
There are millions of victims and survivors out there who've been inspired by your courage. I am. Bravery is contagious. Indeed, that's the driving force behind the Me Too movement. And you sharing your story is going to have a lasting, positive impact on so many survivors in our country. We owe you a debt of gratitude for that, Doctor.
They're blowing up on the YouTube over here, right here.
What do you think?
I'm saying we just got some people there. Got 17 people watching on the YouTube. Got some commies going on.
So as we saw, that was only a portion of her testimony that was very powerful. It was actually a full 17 minutes in which she describes how, she was pushed into this room and pushed on the bed, and she escaped barely because they fell out of the bed and she ran and went in the bathroom, and they just left. So a lot of people can't wrap their head around why someone would just come forward years later, and it's because it's extremely hard to talk about. As you could see, her body language, and the reason I'm so focused on body language is because it was part of my study when I went to school. Human behavior tells you a lot, even when people aren't telling you the words. So her body language is very indicative of someone reliving a trauma when they're speaking about sexual assault. And you could just tell. I mean, it was hard to watch. It was hard to listen to. It would be very unlikely for me to say that this woman is making something up just based on her body language and how hard it was for her to relay these events. Even her eyes, the way they were moving, and all of that. And it's something that a lot of women, even like I said before on our Facebook, are now coming forward and talking about their experiences, but they won't let their family members see because it's very embarrassing for them. It's something that they haven't come to terms with, and now they're just kind of coming to terms with. And it's hard. And as women, you know, we often don't say things because we don't want to make a big deal out of everything, you know, because a lot of the times you get told you're emotional, you're being dramatic, you're, you know, making something out of nothing. And so when you get used to hearing that, you don't want to say anything. And then as for a 15-year-old, I mean, my sister's 15. I can't imagine her going through that. And I think it's just very hard for people who haven't gone through that to understand that these victims can't just go out and say it like that. And it takes time. And this woman recanted how she went to therapy with her husband and how she wanted to put another door in their house. And they were confused as to why she needed another door in her house. And finally, she was able to tell him, oh, this is what happened. And so then the whole thing started from there. And she's one of 4 people that are accusing Kavanaugh. So I just want to know what your take on that is, on, you know, as a man, like what is your take on what she's saying, you know?
I mean, you know, we've talked about this before. I think we talked about it on the last show, whatnot. You know, once again, I can't stand the argument that why didn't she come forward back then? I mean, we talked about this before. You just named a bunch of reasons why it takes a long time for somebody to come forward, you know. And I once knew a guy who was sexually assaulted, and he didn't want anybody to know, you know. The fact that he confided in me, whatnot, you know, it made me think, like, you know, I don't know if he's ever told anybody else. And I think there's a lot of men and women out there, mostly women, who just keep it locked deep down inside. And, you know, we've talked about several women years later and people we know coming out with it now. So I hate that argument about, well, why didn't they come out with it now? And, you know, please forgive me for thinking so about the politics about this, because, you know, we talk about, you know, elections have consequences. And if I was a betting man, you know, I don't want, first of all, I never wanted Kavanaugh to even come close to getting confirmed.
Even before these accusations.
Which is, we'll get to the reason why it could have been squashed. It could have been squashed. They knew about this almost 100 days ago. Dianne Feinstein had it in her hands. Had she let it out right at the time when she got that information, they would have never put him up there. Kavanaugh would have never been put up there to be confirmed, because they would have known right there that he had a history, or it was just too much in the way if it was out then. She waited on this.
But also, there is new information that Miss Ford didn't want to go public. She was going back and forth about going public because of all the negative attention that was brought to her family. In fact, they had to like relocate several times because they've been harassed. Someone hacked into her email, tried to say that she wasn't going to testify. All of these things are happening, and it is a lot that's being brought off on both families. And so Kavanaugh decided to play the victim. And the reason I say play the victim is because I could easily say, oh, he is being affected. Obviously, he's being affected. Obviously, his family is being affected by this. I'm not blind to that fact. However, the way he's turning it around, it's as if his life is ruined. But his life isn't ruined. I mean, he's still a judge. He hasn't been stripped away from being a judge. He hasn't gone to prison. This is simply a trial of qualification, so to speak. It's not even a trial. It's it's an interview of qualifications, if he could do the job right or not. And I think it's absolutely fair for him to do this.
Being labeled a sexual abuser is what's really making him break down and feel that inside that he's losing it. Whatnot. That's why I'm not justifying the tears, but to say that his life will just go on being okay if it looks like he's a sexual abuser, that's not true.
But a person that's innocent
his life is
would also focus on a person that's innocent focuses on, okay, we can learn from this. This is I didn't do this, but you know, we can learn from it. We can grow. It's going to be okay. I have nothing to fear. But he refuses an FBI investigation. So let's look at this video.
Which that one has been all over the line. Lauren Steiner put that up too as well. But Biden, when it came to Clarence Thomas, yelling that the FBI doesn't mean anything. So there you go. You get the conservatives and the Republicans going to their hatch sack of tricks and saying, well, Biden said this. It's going to be like, this doesn't help the survivor one bit. So you were saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's just look at a video of some of his testimony.
I drank beer with my friends. We drank beer, my friends and I. Sometimes I had too many beers. Yes, we drank beer. I liked beer, still like beer. We drank beer. In any event, we drank beer and still do. I think you've probably had beers, Senator. I liked beer. I still like beer. The calendars show a few weekday gatherings at friends' houses after a workout or just to meet up and have some beers. You ever played quarters? Sometimes probably had too many beers. We drank beer. We liked beer.
What do you consider to be too many beers?
I don't know. Whatever the chart says on your blood alcohol chart.
Okay, so I'm
want a
sorry.
beer, fam.
I just had to show that because he said it. You all saw how many times, and he was just focused on the drinking as a crutch. Like, oh, I like beer. Sometimes people drink beer and things get out of hand. Oh, and I was too busy playing basketball, and I was too busy, in my fraternity. And he just focused. It's comical, and the reason I showed that was because I wanted people to see just how many times he focused on that. But here's the actual video that we have that relays his frustration with the hearing.
This confirmation process has become a national disgrace. The Constitution gives the Senate an important role in the confirmation process, but you have replaced advice and consent with search and destroy. Since my nomination in July, there's been a frenzy on the left to come up with something, anything, to block my confirmation. Shortly after I was nominated, the Democratic Senate leader said he would, quote, oppose me with everything he's got. A Democratic senator on this committee publicly referred to me as evil. Evil. Think about that word. And said that those who supported me were, quote, complicit in evil. Another Democratic senator on this committee said, quote, Judge Kavanaugh is your worst nightmare. A former head of the Democratic National Committee said, quote, Judge Kavanaugh will threaten the lives of millions of Americans for decades to come. I understand the passions of the moment, but I would say to those senators, your words have meaning. Millions of Americans listened carefully to you. Given comments like those, is it any surprise that people have been willing to do anything, to make any physical threat against my family, to send any violent email to my wife, to make any kind of allegation against me and against my friends, to blow me up and take me down? You sowed the wind. For decades to come, I fear that the whole country will reap the whirlwind. The behavior of several of the Democratic members of this committee at my hearing a few weeks ago was an embarrassment. But at least it was just a good old-fashioned attempt at borking. Those efforts didn't work. When I did at least okay enough at the hearings that it looked like I might actually get confirmed, a new tactic was needed. Some of you were lying in wait and had it ready. This first allegation was held in secret for weeks by a Democratic member of this committee and by staff. It would be needed only if you couldn't take me out on the merits. When it was needed, this allegation was unleashed and publicly deployed over Dr. Ford's wishes. And then, as no doubt was expected, if not planned, came a long series of false last-minute smears designed to scare me and drive me out of the process before any hearing occurred. Crazy stuff. Gangs, illegitimate children, fights on boats in Rhode Island. All nonsense, reported breathlessly and often uncritically by the media. This has destroyed my family and my good name. A good name built up through decades of very hard work and public service at the highest levels of the American government. This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump and the 2016 election, fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside left-wing opposition groups. This is a circus. The consequences will extend long past my nomination. The consequences will be with us for decades.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes.
Whoosh. It says the FBI could have looked into this during his background check. The FBI was not informed of these accusations. How do you two not know that? I do know that he was looked at 6 times by the FBI over the course of his career. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
he was looked at by the FBI. But again,
this is new information coming
this
forward.
This is just a hearing that they're having because of the job that he wishes to have.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily him being put to trial yet. Now, he said he isn't okay with an FBI investigation. She, on the other hand, is open to going.
He denied an FBI investigation?
He did. He denied an FBI investigation.
I didn't know that.
Like a new one. They're asking him, will you submit to allowing the FBI to investigate these claims? He said no.
Oh, I did not know
she,
that. That's
on
new
the other
information for
hand,
me.
said yes, absolutely.
Okay.
When you're not guilty of something, you have nothing to fear. So obviously, unless there's something else that's not the accusation.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you're going to hear the argument that who believes the Justice Department now? Who believes the FBI?
Well, I mean, who does believe
the intelligence
FBI?
agency?
You're right.
They're
not people
they've
that
been shown to play politics, which is the most
absolutely
the worst thing in this whole
Absolutely.
situation, because it's like I said, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to bet he's going to be confirmed, because the political football that's been played along the line. We talk about Juanita Broadbent, and everything that she went through. I believe you have her tweet, don't you? And, she mentioned, and I think she showed up today as well. I have a couple quotes.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet? All right.
Okay. So before we move on, I just want to show one last video that's Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders does talk about other issues that Kavanaugh has that a lot of people weren't aware of. So
3 credible witnesses, women who have come forward with incredible courage, fully knowing that their character, their lives are going to be assaulted. Terrible, terrible things are going to be said about them. Their lives will never be the same because of their willingness to come forward and say what they did about Judge Kavanaugh. Trump and Judge Kavanaugh have 2 options. Number 1, Trump can say, I am withdrawing Judge Kavanaugh's nomination because I am concerned about what I heard. Or secondly, Kavanaugh himself can say, you know what? These allegations are not true. And I want the FBI to do a thorough investigation to discredit them. Those seem to be the 2 options that we face. What I worry about right now is we have Chuck Grassley, who's the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, trying to rush this thing through without the kinds of investigation that is desperately needed, that the American people want. Chairman Grassley, what are you afraid of? What is the hurry? Why can't we do an FBI investigation to determine the veracity, the truthfulness of what 3 women said? What's the problem with that? And here's what I worry. If the Republicans rush this thing through, if they do a vote this Friday, which as of this minute is the current plan, if they force a vote in the full Senate over the weekend or on Monday. And if Kavanaugh gets seated throughout the rest of his career on the court, people will be looking at this Supreme Court justice and saying, who are you? Why didn't you have the courage to be honest with the American people and allow an investigation of some very serious allegations against you? Is that the kind of justice we want on the Supreme Court? I think not.
See, that's the man who can speak up. That's the guy who can say that because he never played the politics back in the days. That was amazing. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Was that today? Did that pick up or no? Because I missed that.
Yeah, he did that today. So I want to go back to what you were saying. Why is this so messed up? You know, why are we in this situation in the first place? It's because, as you said, the Democrats have played football. Back when Bill Clinton was accused of having sexual relations with a 22-year-old Monica Lewinsky, they decided to completely ignore it and actually bash her. And other women were accused of being sexually assaulted by Bill Clinton and actually raped. And Hillary Clinton and the Democrats paid them off and made sure that they went away. So when the Republicans come and say, oh, you guys only do this when it's a Republican, but you don't care about Al Franken, Keith Ellison, Bill Clinton, etc., Joe Biden, you know, the whole Anita Hill situation. It's true. They are hypocrites. They do manipulate things. They are absolutely gaining some sort of political momentum from this. That's not to be denied. However, the problem is we cannot simply dismiss this woman's accusations because we know the Democrats are corrupt, because we know the Democrats are manipulators. We already know that. That's there regardless. The Republicans are as well. It just makes it more difficult to seek justice for this woman and all these women that are, you know, potential victims. Yeah. When these two political parties are playing ball and are, you know, throwing the word justice around when it's convenient for them. Yeah. Right? We have to have nuance in understanding the situations. Like, I see some on the left dismissing her and saying, you know, she's just being paid off by Soros and
couple on her
she's being used. No, that's bullshit. And I'll tell you why it's bullshit. Because we have a set of photos that are actually false. So people have been saying that there's this photo of Cristine Ford where she's naked and she has a bottle of champagne. It says, yeah, let the FBI investigations begin. What is fair for one should be fair for both. Yeah. Her two key witnesses backed out because they weren't there. Here's a pic that was leaked that their Dr. Ford was a loose goose. I would also like to see an FBI investigation between the coercion between her libtard attorney, and the Dems. Pull phone records, emails, etc. This is worth a federal investigation. So someone, you know, put this photo out, whatever. It's the actual photo has been around for a while. This photo has been dated back to the 60s. Ford would have been born in 1966. Therefore, this photo is not actually her. That a bare resemblance to her actually doesn't even look like her to me. So it's actually not her. So there you go. There's photo number one that's dismissed. There's also another photo of a woman lying naked on top of a table among bottles of alcohol.
Dr. Ford?
That says it's Cristine Blasey Ford at a pool party. It says the photo was provided by a female classmate. Again, this photo is way too modern now to actually be a photo of her. It doesn't even look like her. But you were told by actual Trump supporters in person.
Yeah. They're like, did you not see the pictures? I'm like, no. What are you talking about? Like, she's drunk. She's naked. She's a big-time alcoholic. Please, honey, I've been through this stuff before. And why didn't they do anything about Clinton? They just let him go.
That's the thing.
Please, honey. Please, get me another soda water lime. Thank you.
The Democrats screwed themselves over and screwed it. I mean, now victims and potential victims, because now anything that the Democrats say and any defense they provide is going to be measured against why they didn't do the same for Bill Clinton or when he did that. And absolutely, they have a point there. But again, it doesn't mean that it's not happening. And so there's another photo that she was hanging out with Soros, Clinton, and Weinstein. So this is one photo. It doesn't even look like her. She's with Harvey Weinstein and Bill Clinton. This is actually Kirsten Gillibrand. This is actually Senator Gillibrand, and people are saying that this is her hanging out.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how fake. This is actual fake news that's actually put on like places like Fox News and other places like our boy that got censored. You know, they're just online and people just share them.
Who got
and they
censored?
Don't. Our favorite person, you know.
Oh.
Okay. So the last picture I want to show is with Soros, because anytime that people left or right want to write off the Democrats, they automatically say Soros is funding something, and sometimes it's true because he's one shady motherfucker, and sometimes it's not. But this is not a picture of her. She is not with Soros. This is a Hungarian activist, a Ukrainian activist that just took a picture with Soros. So this is not even a valid picture. None of these pictures are her, but people are using these pictures to dismiss her claims. And that is what you wonder why women don't come forward. It's because of shit like this, because then you're going to dismiss it and say she's making it up anyway. So you have this tweet right here. This is the one you wanted to show. Juanita Broderick.
Yeah, and I believe she showed up in Congress just recently, too. This says, when I was 35 years old when Bill Clinton, Arkansas Attorney General, raped me, and Hillary tried to silence me. I am now 73. It never goes away. Yeah. So, you know.
It doesn't. And it's disgusting that, you know, back then, not enough of us did anything about it. Obviously, I mean, I was a child. But it's just a matter of how the hypocrisy is coming back to haunt the Democratic Party, because now everything we do is going to be questioned. Anything anyone does is going to come into question, you know?
Well, it's so much about men of power, too, doing what they want to do when they want to do it and stuff. And somebody mentioned Groper Booker, too, because it's on the left, too, as well.
Oh,
they have their own dirty laundry to clean, too, as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's rumors of pedophilia. There's with Biden, and, you know, that hasn't been substantiated, but there's just videos. I mean, there's just a lot, and I think if we're gonna call it out when it's a Republican, we absolutely have to call it out when it's a Democrat. And the thing is, Franken did step down. You know, a lot of these people did. Keith Ellison, I just got word he did step down as well.
Who?
But Ellison.
Ellison stepping down?
That's
wow, that's crazy.
So
Bill Clinton,
I'm just saying,
right?
Bill Clinton, you know, that's the thing they're always gonna go back to. So.
Well, it seems like the left is starting to do it right now, you know, and I wish it was for real. I hope it's just not for political gain, but you never know with the Democrats. You know, we have to change that whole party as is. Bill Clinton, okay, this is what happened. Bill Clinton, rape accuser Juanita Broderick, stood in front of the Durskin Senate office building Thursday, pointing to the hypocrisy of Senators Chuck Schumer, Dianne Feinstein, Dick Durbin, and refusing to even read her allegations in 1999, while pushing for believing the accuser of a Republican Supreme Court nominee in the present day.
Wow.
We have a video as well.
People have spoken. Donald Trump will be the next president, the 45th president of the United States. And it will be up to him to set up a team that he thinks will serve him well and reflect his policies. And those who didn't vote for him have to recognize that that's how democracy works. That's how this system operates. When I won, there were a number of people who didn't like me and didn't like what I stood for. And, you know, I think that whenever you've got an incoming president of the other side, particularly in a bitter election like this, it takes a while for people to reconcile themselves with that new reality. Hopefully it's a reminder that elections matter and voting counts. And so, you know, I don't know how many times we have to relearn this lesson, because we ended up having 43% of the country not voting who were eligible to vote, but it makes a difference. So.
You know, you want to believe the survivor, you want to believe them hardcore, and you want justice to be served. But we are so far down the rabbit hole. And, you know, the Supreme Court justices, the way the systems are right now, they're picked by the president. And that last election had consequences. And the thing that really stuck with me is, and it's the solution. He said it, 43% of the country didn't even vote. Well, we got to give people something to vote for, you know, and everything is so encompassed to what's going on today, the injustices that go on. These people that are in this Congress, these rich, mainly rich fucking white men who don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about poor people, black people, anybody. They care about their pockets, and they don't give a shit who they'll fucking step over. And they'll just do anything to keep their power. So right now we're down the rabbit hole, and this election has consequences, and we're looking them straight in the eye right now.
It's unfortunate that now the consequences fall on people like Ford, or worse, on people less fortunate than her. Because let's talk about her privilege. She is a pretty privileged woman. I mean, she grew up wealthy. She went to these private schools. She is a doctor. She has absolutely no impetus to do this. I mean, she's not after money. She has money. You know, she didn't want the attention. She didn't want the fame. This is her using her privilege to speak for all citizens. Because I imagine that you might not want to say anything. You might even try to forget about it like she did. But the moment you see someone that is potentially going to become a Supreme Court judge who decides, you know, which laws to pass, which laws to approve, is something that changes the script of everything. It's something that you know, if she stayed quiet, it's her duty to inform them, hey, this guy should not have this much power. Because what rape and sexual assault are about, it's about power and control. And someone that is already someone that really gets off on power and control, to get that much control, that much power for life, is something that to me is her duty, and anyone's duty that has that information, to step up and say, hey, like, no, this isn't, you guys should know. It's not for me to decide if he's qualified, she said, but it is for me to tell you the truth about this guy's behavior. And that's it. And you know what? If we're going to judge kids who are getting shot down by police for being adults at 17 years old, we can judge him the same way. Yeah.
And Vegan for the Planet, let me just say this much on YouTube. I'm not saying that all white men are rich. I'm far from rich. I don't even know how I'm going to pay my fucking rent next month, okay? But what I'm saying is that the Congress is filled with a lot of predominant rich white men. And that's all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Once again, you don't have to be white to be a part of the Congress and have a lot of money. Economics means a lot. I'm not doing that. I'm not trying to say that. But what we have in the Congress right now, you saw what she had to look at as she was testifying her story. So,
and just before we move on to the next subject, I do want to say that in moments like this, like I was pointing out her privilege, there's a lot of women out there that are poor, that are working class, that stay in toxic relationships, that stay in bad situations, or that never speak out because they don't have the ability to speak out. They don't have the support system. They don't have the money. They definitely don't have the platform, and they don't have the media behind them to say something, which is why, you know, here we do the She Does movement that includes women who are homeless. Women who are homeless are much more likely to be abused sexually, domestically as well. So it's important to remember these women, and you know, these stories are always highlighted, are the ones that are in the media, these wealthier women, these celebrities, but it's important to remember that not all of these women get to tell their story. So that's why it goes beyond politics, this situation. This isn't a bipartisan issue. This is an issue of integrity, and if this person can perform their job with that integrity, if they have this kind of characterization with women. So
okay, and Vegan for Planet, we got you. Understood. We'll talk about it more another time. Let's get to this next segment, because you know how I love the games. You know me, fam. I gotta loosen up again. We got a little game here. Do we got any music, any noise, any boings, or we got a new game called Support 'em, fam, or Abort 'em.
Whoa.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're gonna start off with the first one, fam. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So fam, who we got first?
we have AOC.
AOC.
So we all heard what she said about supporting all Democrats, including Governor Cuomo, who dissed her. It's not what progressives want to hear, but is it really enough to say tuck tail and run? Support him or abort him, fam?
Fam, on this one, and I'm going to go support him.
Of course.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm going to go support him because you know what? She is a young politician, you know, even though you have to be a politician.
She's a young congressional candidate that's being judged by literally every word she says is being judged so harshly by a lot of the, again, I'm going to go back to she's a young Latina woman. Like, I mean, not only are people going to doubt her being a millennial in her age, they're going to doubt her as a woman. And intrinsically, there is a lot of that. It's hard to navigate the political world as a woman. This is why a lot of women aren't in politics, because it's something that is discouraged. And I think her every word isn't what we should be focused on. I think we should be focused on her actions. Is it something problematic? Absolutely. I did not like it at all. We talked about it on another show extensively. I don't agree with her statement. I don't think she had to make it. I do see maybe what someone's trying to do strategically. I think it's the wrong idea because people like her when she is a leftist socialist, not when she is, you know, saying these things like she said about McCain and then that. And it gives some people who are very purist in their mindset a reason to lash out. But it's also because we've been tricked so many times and we've been, you know, railed through so many thorns that we feel the way we feel. Yeah, and it's hard.
It's a learning curve. It's not time to tuck tail and run. You know, it was a mistake. We feel maybe that she's being influenced somewhat by the campaign, but it is very frustrating how they get to the table they're just supposed to flip over. We put you there to fight the establishment, not kiss their ass. So it is a little disappointing. However, I'm not ready to abort yet, fam.
No,
I'm going to support.
I fully support her. She's still got to win this race. She's still got, you know, to get in there, and actions speak louder than words. So
we'll see. I hope she doesn't have that type of mess up next. You know who we got next, fam?
Who, fam?
I love the noise. Andrew Gillum.
Andrew Gillum.
Yes. Okay. All right. So, fam, first, it was the news that Andrew Gillum was anti-BDS. Okay. When it comes to Andrew. He then walked back his stance on single payer and is in full support of the ACA. Then he talked very highly of kind of this regime change mentality when it came to Venezuela. And finally, the cherry on top, fam.
Oh, God.
He announced that he will be hitting the road. The band's getting back together. He's going on the road with one Hillary Rodham Clinton. So I asked you, fam, support him or abort him?
Oh, I am like, God. Like, this one's tough. Like, I cannot stand DeSantis. DeSantis is a vile, lousy, disgusting excuse for a human being. I mean, just disgusting. And he, to me, it's more of like he just aborted himself, Gillum, because any independent votes that he could have gotten, fam, he lost. By campaigning with Hillary Clinton, the Republicans that hate Trump that might go for him, the independents that, you know, hate the two-party system and saw maybe this guy might do something different. Seeing him campaigning with Hillary Clinton, and you forgot taking pictures with Cory Booker and
Roper Booker
and all of this, like, it's just this is suicide. Like, he was going up on the polls. I think this is going to hurt him a lot. I think this is actually one of the dumbest things he could have done as a candidate. And more than that, to me, it's even if he thought maybe, you know, I hang out with the big leagues, blah, blah, blah. That's not what got you there. And also Medicare for All. If you go on his website, he went back and said something like, I support healthcare as a right, not a privilege. He went on Twitter and said that. But if you go to his website, it says, I believe that we should focus on reforming the ACA first, which is classic neoliberal BS, which it allows him to say, yes, I support Medicare for all, but first let's do it. No. Fuck the ACA.
No, James Ali even said, abort. If you're a politician and you're not fighting for single payer, you are not worthy of support. Abort! Hit the abort button. I agree with James Aaliyah. And James Aaliyah always says say things in the right way. He's such a great candidate. I love you, James
I love
Aaliyah.
James Aaliyah in the
You're
71st district for State Assembly in California.
But I believe it's 61, right? I think so. Tell us, James. Is it 61?
71st, I thought
71? I don't know. See, I'm getting bad with the numbers.
Okay. But anyway, I do want to point out with Gillum that if you're in Florida and you have to choose wisely. Okay. That's all I say.
You're right, fam. You sound like me coming on right now. Dianne Feinstein. What about this next guy, fam?
Oh,
who do we got next?
So
somebody who's been in the news lately.
Yeah. So Ro Khanna.
It's
always been questionable with him. He's actually been doing really well lately. But it's been questionable where he gets his money from.
Always
he has
questions.
Cozied up to the establishment from time to time. He didn't support AOC right away. He then supported both candidates. But now he has stepped out of line and endorsed Buffy the Bernie Slayer. Buffy, what's her name?
I think it's Helger or...
no, Buffy Wicks.
Buffy Wicks, that's it.
He's supporting her over Jovanka Pickles. And that's a no-no. So, do we support him or abort him? Fam? I know where I stand on this one.
I'm going to say support him.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't like what Ro Khanna has done from time to time. There is questions where he gets his money. He gets single individual donors sometimes that are in the tech business that have given him a lot of money. You think they want favors down the road. But the reason why I am going to still support Ro Khanna is his stance on war. He always speaks out when it comes to war, when it comes to arming, Ukrainian neo-Nazis. He spoke out. He spoke out about what's going on in Syria at times. So I support Ro Khanna, fam.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, necessarily say I blindly support him, but I think we have to look at the fact that war and our regime change wars and our involvement in all these proxy wars is a huge part of our many issues we have right now in this country. And to me, that is one of the main issues right next to money and politics. So I think he's done more good than bad. And I think he's someone that I think will kind of be there for us when we need him.
Man, the YouTube crowd, y'all are ruthless over there on the MCSC.
No.
Vegan for the planet, Cheryl Vick. Man, we're trying our best over here. You know what I'm saying? They're like, abort his ass. Abort, abort. I don't even know if they'll get one support.
Personally, I would abort, most people. I wouldn't abort AOC. But I think if we're talking about political reality, and especially in California, like, you guys have to understand, California is a whole other game, man. Like, I mean, we are seen as very, very left here because people shill for neoliberals here. And speaking of shilling for neoliberals, fam,
Kevin DeLeon. Kevin DeLeon. He was really never considered a true progressive, fam, okay?
Not at all, even though they try.
But he is running against Dianne Feinstein, fam. And we just mentioned her when it comes to the political football. He supports the abolition of ICE, all right? But, fam, here's my question. Has Kevin DeLeon done enough for you to get behind him full throttle as a candidate and support him?
No.
Or, fam, are you going to abort him?
I haven't decided where my vote's going to go in the Senate race, but I would say I abort.
Abort!
I don't support him because he is using this issue with immigration. You saw his ad. We saw his ad. His immigration issue, he's milking it for what it is. He didn't talk about war. He didn't talk about single payer. He didn't talk about education. He didn't talk about homelessness. He didn't talk about anything on his ad. All he did was focus on the one thing he knew, where he could get votes from the Hispanic community. And to me, that's manipulation. It's disgusting that he's doing that, and I see right through it. And I obviously am all for the abolition of ICE. I'm completely for that. I think he's going to do more, and he has done more than Feinstein, obviously, for that. And I do recognize his work in that regard. But I also see the manipulation, and I do not trust him. And I do not trust the fact that he still continues taking corporate money. And he's trying to paint himself like a Bernie-crat, and he's stealing a lot of Bernie-crat support. And in turn, that's seeping into our movement and allowing people to become more complacent. And we're going back, and they're pulling us to the right here. And it's very hard to stand your ground on that when you're constantly criticized and gaslighted and mocked for not supporting candidates like him. And I said I haven't decided if I'm going to vote for him, but It's very difficult for me. This is very difficult for me because I can't stand Feinstein, and he's the only other option. But I don't necessarily think he's the best one to unseat her. I would rather her appoint someone, get that person out, and then we actually put an actual progressive in there. I do see that as a possible tactic, but, you know.
Who knows? I mean, right now you have to make a choice. But right now, Cheryl Vick, let me just explain. We have a jungle primary over here. So the top 2 from the primaries who win go on. The Green candidate did not come close. However, we are supporting a Green candidate in Kenneth Mejia, who's running for Congress, who did make the top 2 in his primary. So we have to left with this choice. It's either Feinstein or De Leon. And can I say something about Kevin De Leon? He is as boring as shit, too, man. This guy is about as uninspiring as can be. I'd rather watch paint dry or grass friggin' grow.
But fam,
sometimes.
You were the one that
Well, you know what? The ICE video, his last campaign ad, the scare tactic, it kind of was like, you know what? Like the fear tactic, like, oh, against ICE, against
Trump.
Like, you can't stand for anything. Can you stand for single payer? Nah, not really, because you've never really been full blown for it. Yeah, you voted for it, but you were kind of in the bushes when you did.
Yeah.
You know, so if you can't give me something to vote for, which FAM has been talking about, we never give anybody anything to vote for anymore. You want to stay with the same method of about voting against something, vote against Dianne Feinstein because she's for ICE? Please, I mean, I remember the picture of De Leon and Hillary Clinton. If you made that mistake then, I don't even think you're a true progressive.
Yeah.
And you know what? I just don't think he's going to cross the finish line.
Yeah.
I haven't made the decision, but right now I'm leaning towards the abort because you've given me nothing to vote for, and that's what I want. Something to vote for, not something to vote against.
Woo!
Okay. Fam, what do we got next?
Fam, we have the Democratic Party.
Hey!
That's hilarious.
Watch the YouTube go crazy over here.
The Dementer movement is considered a progressive transformation. We have had some great candidates that are very progressive when they're primary all over the country, which is true, except that the leadership is still basically not willing to change. All the senators all voted for Donald Trump's overbloated defense budget. So true.
All of them.
So, fam, is it time to finally exit for good? What do you think?
Fam, this is a tough one because if I had to say just going on the leadership alone, I'd say abort right away. But once again, and for all those people who lived in closed primary states, if Bernie Sanders runs as a Democrat, we need to get him in office. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but, especially on the YouTubes, after hearing what they say.
YouTube is leftist. Facebook is...
Exactly, but, if Bernie Sanders runs as a Democrat, unless we have somebody who's strong who can beat him, that's even further to the left of him, then he's our best chance. Let's be honest. He's still one of our best chances if he does run. So, I mean, I'm ready to abort the leadership and get them replaced. But however, I can't say abort or deport. Give me an abort. Put the abort up there. I hate
let me say something.
I can't stand them.
Let me say something.
They're so freaking corporate.
I started out full dem enter, like, oh yeah, let's dem enter. This is a good way to do it. First of all, I dem exited Green Party, voted Jill Stein and all. Then I was like, okay, let's try the dem enter. Let's see what we can do. And now I'm seeing a lot of these candidates fall in line again. These progressive candidates start going and doing the thing.
Wine. What does that even mean? That don't even make sense.
Shout out to Tim Black for that. That was hilarious.
That don't even make sense.
But and so it's hard because more than the big candidates, what I'm seeing is locally. I'm seeing a lot of people become very complacent with shilling for neoliberals, or let me call it shilling for centrists or voting for centrists because of a political tactic. Whatever you want to freaking call it. Yeah. I just like saying the words shilling for neoliberals.
But what do you say to those people who say, stop? I don't want to hear that I'm shilling for neoliberals again. I say, well, then stop shilling for neoliberals. You ain't got nothing to worry about it.
But I get it. I get it. The practicality of it. I get that it's a different tactic. I get what they're trying to do. I don't support it. I get it. But I don't agree because it's not working. It hasn't worked. Like, this kind of incrementalism hasn't worked. We are winning. We're winning locally. We're winning in smaller seats. But at the end of the day, often what we see is when these people get in power, they cannot operate without the chains of the system. So what I get mad for the Democrats here, whether they're delegates or they're people holding local office, is that they don't support green parties. They don't support third parties. They actually trash talk them. So if I were to meet people who are like, yeah, let's STEM enter, but let's also work with our outside parties, which is what my idea is. See, I still believe we need some people on the inside. Maybe only a few, but we need some people on the inside, because the only way to get people power, these people on the outside to get some power, is to have some of these people on the inside. Unless you're looking at a violent revolution, which in turn ends up with us losing and being dismissed by everybody else and being squashed by the establishment. We don't want to go to violence yet. So I think we need to continue building up the outside parties, whether it's independent parties, a democratic socialist should be maybe their own party, green, progressive, whatever it is. And Gail McLaughlin is one of the candidates that is constantly talking, and we're going to have her on our show very soon. But I just think we still need to be able to work with progressives who are going to push for the issues no matter what their party affiliation is. The problem is people on both sides are screaming at each other and talking crap about each other. So it just doesn't work. And that's why I've lost so much faith in the fact that this can work, because they're just not willing to work together.
It's the left is so fragmented right now. Like I said, if I was a betting man, I would bet that Kavanaugh, even though I don't want him to be confirmed, will be confirmed. And if right now, I would have to say the early odds that Trump is going to win the next election when he runs again, because if we don't get our shit together, it's over. You know what I'm saying? It is over. Good night. And I know a lot of people are saying, you're freaking out too early. No, I mean, all the bullshit that goes on, the constant, like, divisiveness, the identity politics, the just willing to accept corporate candidates who are pro-war and take money, whatnot. You know, like somebody said, you fool me once, shame on you. You fool me twice, you can't fool me again, fam.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's hit this last one.
It's a tough one.
Jimmy Dore, fam.
Jimmy Dore.
Here we go. Everybody knows and loves Jimmy Dore, right? You know? He
Apparently
speaks the truth about the corruption within the DNC, and which you never see on the mainstream media. You see it on his show, though.
Yeah.
He's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, anti-war personality out there, which is my #1 issue, and I love him. But his blow-up with what's her name? Francesca Fiorentina has a lot of people screaming about what went on over private messages that she snapshot and put back up. So, this rhetoric towards women is what a lot of people are complaining about, fam. So, I ask you, support him or abort him?
I support Jimmy Dore. And as a woman that considers myself a feminist, I don't see what they're twisting this into. This came out of context. First of all, screenshots being sent out publicly is a big no-no for me, unless you absolutely have to, and it's something that's absolutely, you need to absolutely say. She didn't have to do that. That was a conversation that they had privately. It should have stayed private, #1. #2, he was in the wrong for talking to her like that. Absolutely, I don't condone the way he spoke to her or the way he would speak to anyone like that. I don't think that was the right way to have a conversation. However, those screenshots were not the whole story. It was out of context. She was spreading the same kind of thing we don't like. You know, this blaming these other countries for being these fascist countries, these countries that are the ones that are the enemy, when we are actually the ones causing these issues. And I think his response could have been done in a different way. Mm-hmm. But I think there was a little bit of gaslighting on their end as well. There was another person involved. There was a little bit of gaslighting with that. I don't think that we can judge one entire person and everything they've done for this movement based on one interaction, which is why I'm not judging AOC based on one thing she said, and I'm not going to judge other people just based on one thing they say, because this is the first time I've seen him do something like this in a public setting. And I think if we're going to judge and put people on pedestals, and the moment they fuck up once, you're just going to write them off, I hope you never make a mistake in your life. And I think there's a lot of the left that is just lashing onto him because he's saying things they don't want to hear. He calls things out that other people are too scared to call out. Is he aggressive about it? Yes. That's always been his style. I don't think this was a sexist thing. I think it was more of a lashing out, being angry. I don't know what was going on with him or whatever situation. I don't know, so I'm not going to comment on it. But all I'm saying is his delivery was wrong. The way he did it was wrong. But I think dismissing him as an entire person and all the good things he does for the movement, all the good things he's done is ridiculous. And there's a group of people there that, you know, disagree, and that's fine. They can disagree, but I still trust in Jimmy Dore to be the one that's going to not be afraid to say something that other people won't say.
All right, fam, well done. I mean, he slipped up, you know. He's got to watch his rhetoric and his you know, the way he kind of goes at some people. But, you know, when at the end of the day, he's an anti-war guy. And if you understand where Jimmy Dore comes from, you know, this is a guy who was a USO comic, who was really, you know, had to look into men and women's eyes that were going off to fight bullshit, nonsensical wars to die for rich men. And it's what drives him. It's his passion. Yeah. So when he sees this behavior, and, you know, Fiorella, you know, is that her name? You're Fiorella.
No, I'm Fiorella. She's Francesca. Well, switch one Italian name for the other.
Fiorentina, you know what I'm saying? You know, her stance and her rhetoric when it comes to, you know, the serious situation is somewhat, you know, a little bit pro-warish.
It is pro-warish, but it's the most popular rhetoric. I mean, it's very hard for people to accept that. I mean, even when we talk about it, people are like, "No, you're supporting these you know, these terrorists. You're supporting these people. Assad, he's a war criminal." Da 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 da. Yeah. I mean, but what about us? What about Obama? What about Bush? What about Trump? What about all of us? You're not seeing it from their perspective. You're not understanding that what's happening in Venezuela is a completely different situation than what's happening now. And so Jimmy's very passionate about that. I'm not condoning the way he spoke to her, but I'm simply saying that we need to stop judging him based on this one thing. And I think he was already getting a lot of backlash from some on the left, even before this incident happened. So I think this was the last straw off the camel's back that did it for a lot of people on our Facebook list that are, you know, that haven't really been about him and haven't really been about what he's saying. And that's fine. They don't have to be. But I think using it as an excuse to you know, completely write him off is unfair.
This was an attack. This is a smear campaign that started way before these messages came out. Yeah. We've seen it for the last couple of weeks. Yeah. It's got a lot of connections to the California Democratic Party, whatnot. You know, I think it's a lot about his rhetoric towards maybe, you know, the establishment and even, you know, a lot of De Leon supporters who do not, you know, who I've seen online lash out on him or not happy with him. So they're trying to smear what he says.
And by the way, De Leon will not go on a show. Yeah. And I mean, if I'm you know, a candidate that's trying to get the progressive vote, and I've said it many times, if De Leon came out and say I won't take corporate money anymore, I would be like, absolutely, I'll support you. Absolutely, let's have a conversation. But he hasn't done that. He hasn't tried, and I just think it's kind of ridiculous to expect the actual progressives who aren't going to continue voting for people who take corporate money to vote, to expect them to have their vote as a candidate. You have no right to anyone's vote. You have to give us a reason to vote for you. You're not entitled to our vote. Yeah. And I think, you know, there's a lot of division. Again, people want to win. People want to make progress, but sometimes you can't put the integrity and put what we started from. We started from the fact that we don't take corporate money. We started from the fact that we don't support war, because war is one of the main issues that leads to the many other issues. So I just feel like people like De Leon and people like some of the establishment Democrats aren't ever going to learn. And so I think it's just cognitive dissonance.
I gotta agree somewhat with Eric Zachary. He made some serious points and whatnot. You know, it's like he's got to present a little bit more solutions than rather just shitting on the situation. Like, you know, you're not going to reform the Democratic Party. The Dem Enter movie is not about that. It's about replacing them. It's about, like James Leah said, it's about hijacking the party and whatnot. So, I mean, the way he does his rhetoric when it does come to a lot of those things, shitting on AOC and whatnot. Yeah. And, you know, it doesn't help the situation.
And it's not like I agree with all of the things he says, but I do agree a lot with him on foreign policy, and that's one of his strong points. And I disagree with him. I think starting a whole third party right now isn't the key. I think we need to build up the parties on the outside and still maybe have some people take whatever they can take in the Democratic Party. But, you know, it's getting harder and harder to defend that.
Yeah, it is.
As I keep going.
It is. It really is. And I hope he calms down and gets everything straight. So that is our show for today, fam. We rocked it out. We want to thank I'm going to give a little shout out to some of the YouTube followers today, because they are tough. Shirley Vick, Darren Levy. Yeah, I want to eliminate the CIA. I want to get that shirt, Darren. If you want to get that with me, we'll wear that. It's called Abolish the CIA.
Abolish, yeah.
J.O.
Someone's going to come in.
And we had a hard time. Vegan for the planet. She was tough. He was tough. If it's a he or she, you were really, really tough. And also, thank you for hanging out and watching the show and criticizing us.
We have both Facebook and YouTube right now streaming, so it's very interesting to see the different perspectives.
Wow. Facebook
is definitely more pro-Democrat than YouTube, and we are kind of somewhere in the middle.
I guess
it's
so.
Interesting. Okay, fam, if it were up to me emotionally, like if I was just acting on my instinct emotionally, I'd say fuck it all and like fuck the Democrats and, you know, start over from scratch. That's what I would do. But the way I see it, logically, I do think that there's got to be a way to avoid that and to kind of unite both fronts. I don't think party labels matter. I think what matters are where you stand on the issues and how much integrity you have once you get into power. Very few people are uncorruptible. Most people are corruptible. And that's what we've seen and learned. We're all human beings, so...
Special shout-outs to James Aaliyah, Brian Cheeseman, Sarah, William K., because I don't want to say that, because Mazarak, I can't say that last word, Eric Zachary, Gilbert Flores, we love you, Kyle Nobles. Where's Kyle Warlitz at? He's been an MIA. Nancy Kaufman, we love you too.
Nancy,
thank you so much.
hi.
And one more time, another big shout-out to James Aaliyah. You're the best. We'll see you soon. Fam, my name is Pasta Jardula.
And I am Fam Fiorella.
Fam Fiorella. We are out. Thank you for watching the Convo Couch.
Thanks, guys, for watching.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Where's my music?
Hey, if you liked our video and want to support independent media, please like, share, and subscribe below.
Yeah, we have a Facebook, a Twitter, a YouTube, and coming soon, fam, we're going to be on Roku.
Take it easy, fam. And if you have any change to spare, please subscribe to our Patreon below to keep us going.
Yes, anything would help with that.
Thanks again for watching. Convo out.